how could I forget?
And compared to you two, Helen and I lead a life that's simple, modest, and humble.
Oh, God.
In the late 1970s, television fans followed the lovable landlords from Three's Company into the new sitcom, The Ropers. But something just didn't click in their new neighborhood, and ratings quickly headed south. Dive into 10 reasons behind the flop, counting down to the core mistake that doomed the spin-off. Number 1. Why the Three's Company spin-off, The Ropers, failed. Let's go back to a time when Three's Company ruled the primetime lineup with its innuendo and farcical neighbors. In 1979, network execs tried to bottle that magic with The Ropers, a spin-off that shifted Stanley and Helen from hilarious landlords to fish out of water in a sedate suburb. Gone were the snappy double entendres and wild misunderstandings in the Santa Monica apartment. Instead, viewers watched the couple fumble through homeowner squabbles and bland block parties. They missed the constant zing of scandal, the very thing that made the original a ratings juggernaut. The show's new world came without the social sizzle or playful taboos that made The Ropers so fun. Even Norman Fell and Audra Lindley, the original stars, couldn't bring that spark back amid freshly mowed lawns and picket fences. After only 2 seasons, The Ropers quietly disappeared from ABC's schedule in 1980. It's a pop culture reminder that comedy thrives on chaos, and sometimes new surroundings just can't recapture that familiar, delicious tension. Number 2. A strained star dynamic. The clang of doorbells and the slow burn of Norman Fell's smirk seemed unstoppable, especially when paired with Audra Lindley's comic timing. On Three's Company, Mr. and Mrs. Roper made every quip land. But when The Ropers premiered in 1979, everything felt magnified, and not always for the better. Suddenly center stage, their bickering lost the subtlety that made the original dynamic sparkle. Pushed into familiar sitcom squabbles, the conflicts quickly felt stale, robbing their characters of surprise. In Two's Company, their presence brought laughs in small bursts. As leads, the charm diluted. Despite decent ratings at first, enough to warrant a second season, the magic simply wouldn't stretch. Audiences loved their nosy, catchphrase-heavy exchanges in the original, but as the stars of their own show, the chemistry thinned out. By 1980, ABC pulled the plug, leaving fans wondering what happened to that easy, scene-stealing magic. Sometimes a supporting act is right where the lightning stays bottled, hinting at what could have been while setting the mood for what comes next. Number 3. Why the Three's Company spinoff. The Ropers failed. Listen close, and you can almost hear the silence where the laughs used to be. When audiences tuned in to The Ropers in 1979, they were hoping to recapture the magic of Three's Company, but something just felt off. Stanley and Helen, so perfectly played by Norman Fell and Audra Lindley, left behind a rich world of misunderstandings, flirty, banter, and wild hijinks at the apartment building. The spin-off dropped them into suburban monotony, surrounded by new faces, but stripped of the quirky, beloved neighbors and the chaotic presence of Jack, Janet, and Chrissy. Without their familiar chemistry and unresolved connections, fans struggled to care. Storylines that once bubbled with tension and comedic energy went unresolved, leaving longtime viewers in limbo. The transition proved too jarring. By 1980, the show was off the air, living on mostly as a trivia answer. Sometimes changing the scenery means leaving the magic behind. Next up, we'll see what happened when other TV favorites tried to strike out on their own. Number 4. Norman Fell's reluctant exit from Three's Company. Picture this. Norman Fell is Mr. Roper, trading barbs and sly grins with his wife and tenants, an anchor for Three's Company since its debut in 1977. When ABC pushed for a spin-off in 1979, Norman only agreed to leave if he could return to Three's Company if the new show flopped within a year. The result was The Ropers, a sitcom centered on Stanley and Helen Roper moving to a new neighborhood. Ratings stumbled after strong curiosity, and by 1980, the experiment fizzled out. But by then, contract technicalities barred Norman from going back to his old role. Three's Company soldiered on, but a certain chemistry was lost, and audiences felt it. Sometimes rearranging the puzzle pieces only scatters the magic. As Mr. Roper faded from our screens, so did a uniquely comedic spark, proving how one change can linger for seasons to come. Number 5. The missed opportunity with Jeffrey P. Brookes III. You remember Jeffrey P. Brookes III, the buttoned-up neighbor who swept into the Ropers with a load of condescension and a glossy mustache. Played by Jeffrey Tambor, Jeffrey was supposed to spark sitcom magic, mixing the Ropers' lowbrow chaos with upper-crust disdain. The hope was rivalry and big laughs, yet the show, which premiered in 1979, fizzled out after just 2 seasons on ABC. Viewers grumbled. Tambor's character was more irritating than hilarious, and the chemistry that made Three's Company sizzle got replaced with forced one-liners and awkward pauses. The canned laughter couldn't mask the disconnect. By May of 1980, the Ropers had moved to the TV graveyard, a reminder that not every neighbor needs a spin-off. Still, if you ever caught an episode, you can almost hear Mr. Roper's deadpan zingers fall flat against Jeffrey's haughty retorts. Sometimes a little extra wit just isn't the right seasoning. Ahead, we'll see what other sitcom experiments left fans wanting more. Let's pause for a second. Did you ever root for a TV spin-off, or was there one character you wished had just stayed in the background? Share your nostalgia in the comments. Who deserved their own spotlight and who didn't? Number 6. Slow-paced character development. Imagine the unmistakable shuffle of Stanley. Roper, now far from the wacky energy of Three's Company. In 1979, the Ropers tried to capture viewers with a softer, more human take on its oddball landlord. The series moved Stanley and Helen from their mischievous Santa Monica apartment building into suburbia, surrounded by chatty neighbors and a slower rhythm. Attempting to add depth, writers focused on heartfelt storylines, celebrating anniversaries, navigating new friendships, hoping to reveal the people behind the punchlines. But audiences longed for mischief, not sentiment. The comedic momentum that once had fans in stitches was replaced by awkward silences and missed beats. Norman Fell's Stanley Roper, made lovable, simply felt deflated without his signature groans and double takes. TV audiences in 1979 tuned in for gags, not growing pains, and the show fizzled after just 2 seasons. There's a lesson in those lingering laugh tracks. Sometimes a slow dance is no match for the quick-step comedy we remember best. With every curtain drawn, we turn the page, ready for the next act. Number 7. Loss of ensemble chemistry. When Stanley and Helen Roper moved out of their Santa Monica apartment building for their very own show in 1979, something vital stayed behind. The Ropers had been comedic dynamite on Three's Company, constantly clashing with Jack, Janet, and Chrissy, their sharp bickering offset by the youthful chaos around them. But on the Ropers, it was just Stanley and Helen front and center. Without the trio's energy to play off, their marital squabbles quickly lost their spark, turning the couple from hilarious outsiders into weary headliners. The supporting cast, including Jeffrey Tambor as their uptight neighbor, never recaptured that peppery magic of the original ensemble. Audiences missed the clash of generations and temperaments, and ratings steadily dropped after the first season. By 1980, ABC quietly pulled the plug. What had once been that irresistible blend of old-school gags and youthful mischief faded into something flatter. Like a party when the most fun guests leave early, you could sense what was missing. Sometimes, separation is what makes chemistry sizzle, and when you lose that, the laughter dries up. Number 8. Stiff competition from other networks. The clang of competing theme songs hung in the air as the Ropers took its sophomore swing on ABC in 1979. It sounded promising, a spin-off starring Norman Fell and Audra Lindley reprising their roles as Stanley and Helen Roper. But Season 2 threw them headlong into an impossible time slot against Alice on CBS. Alice was a heavyweight, drawing millions and ranking firmly in the top 10. In the era before streaming and on-demand, if the family across the street was laughing with Alice and her diner regulars, there was little chance they'd flip over to see Stanley's signature scowl. The Ropers simply never had a moment to settle into a rhythm, to let viewers root for their suburban misadventures. Ratings slid, and what might have been a sitcom staple faded too quickly. It's a vivid reminder. Sometimes survival isn't about how funny you are, but who you're up against. Another week, another battle, and a lesson in just how cutthroat television could be. Number 9. The departure from classic Three's Company humor. A cloud of laughter used to swirl around Stanley and Helen Roper, showering prime time with the slapstick farce that Three's Company fans craved. But in 1979, when the Ropers stepped into their own spin-off spotlight on ABC, the very heart of the joke changed pace. Gone were the bawdy misunderstandings and frantic door slamming that made the Ropers neighbors you just had to watch. Instead, the show shifted them to the monotony of suburban Cheviot Hills, trading explosive sitcom chaos for quiet, subtle jokes about lawn care and neighbors' squabbles. Audiences tuned in hoping for the zany magic of the original. What they got felt tame, almost gentle. The energy spark that made Stanley's deadpan delivery and Helen's sly comebacks legendary started to fizzle. Ratings dipped, and the spark never quite reignited. By 1980, after just 2 seasons, Helen and Stanley were off the air. But in living rooms everywhere, their original antics lived on, teaching fans that when a formula works, it's sometimes best left untampered. Number 10. Why the Three's Company spin-off, The Ropers, failed. You could almost hear the sighs from fans when The Ropers hit the airwaves in March 1979. Audra Lindley and Norman Fell brought their unforgettable comedic chemistry back, breaking away from Three's Company for a shot at their own sitcom. But unlike the original, which thrived on Tuesday nights, The Ropers got shuffled to ABC's Saturday schedule, a notorious ratings minefield. Loyal viewers, used to their favorite landlords cracking jokes after Jack Tripper, suddenly had to hunt for the new show on a different night. The switch caused confusion, throwing off the weekly groove that made Tuesday viewing a ritual. Without a solid, stable slot to build anticipation, The Ropers struggled to catch fire. By the end of its second season in 1980, ABC quietly pulled the plug, leaving fans with just 31 episodes. The echo of missed punchlines and empty apartments reminds us how a simple scheduling tweak can tip the scales, setting the stage for the next twist in TV history.